Hello my stamping friends, Susan here with Pumpkin Hill Stampers, and I have a Stampin' Show and Tell to share with you today. Today we're going to be making this fun card with the Awash with Beauty Designer Series paper. I used this last week as well in this piece I really wanted to use, so I'm using it again. I'm also pairing it with some ribbon and twine and tags from the Delicate Tags dies to make this fun embellishment on the front, and I'm using the stamp set Celebrating You for my sentiments. So I'm going to be using those so you know what stamp set I'm using. And my base card is Mary Merlot, and I'm going to put all this together for you. Now, this is a fun fold card. This one is called the book binding card if you're into titling your card types. So as you can see, the front is a standard size, right? It's a standard size card. But when you open it, the inside is a little bit skinny, and we do that by creating a book binding down the edge. So I'll show you how I did that when I demonstrate the card. Okay, so this is a template that I've used in the past, and I now have an actual template from the urging of Jackie Bolas with her template classes that she's doing for all of us on her YouTube channel. So here is my template that I have in my template box now. So it's made from retired Designer Series paper and cardstock, which we all have a ton of, and I've created this template so I can just pull it out and easily go to my supplies and prep my materials. So you can see on the back, I've got my base is 8.5 by 5.5. So I have my 8.5 by 5.5. Then it says score at 3 1/4 and 4 1/4. So you may not be able to see it, but if I start to crease these, there's my 4 1/4. That's half of the sheet, and then I have another one at 3 1/4. So just an inch in from that, and that's going to become the book binding section. So you see when that's all folded up, we've got this little bend in our card on the front. Okay, so I do that on my stamping trimmer and my scoreboard. Then it says adhere 1 inch section to the inside of the card. So when we're ready to start making it, we're going to put adhesive here and then stick that together so we get that skinny opening. Okay, so there's my basic template. Then I flip it over and I can see the measurements on my sample, on my template, that I need a 3 by 5 1/4 for here. I need a 3/4 by 5 1/4 there, and then my inside, okay, I don't have one there, but I know it's the same size as this, is going to be 3 by 5 1/4 as well. And then I've added a piece because I had an extra piece of this scrap. I have another 3/4 inch by 3 inch piece that I'm going to put on the bottom on the inside. Okay, so that's just to decorate up the inside a little bit. So that's how simple it was. I just went to my supplies, pulled out the papers I wanted to use, took my template over to my cutting station, scoring station, made all my pieces, and then I was ready to go. So this idea of creating a template box is really great, and I'm using it a lot, so I have to give credit where credit is due. Okay, so let's start putting our card together. Okay, we've got all the basic pieces here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the Designer Series paper down first, because that's pretty simple. So I'm just going to use my mono adhesive. I'll flip these over, put some adhesive on the back of these two pieces, both of which go on the front. So I'm going to put this one on the bigger section, and this one on the smaller section. Get my images going the same way up and down. Okay. Then before I do the center one, I'm going to go ahead and stamp my sentiment just in case I don't like the way it comes out. So I'm using Mary Merlot ink because that's the color of my cardstock on the bottom. And I'm using the wedding sentiment because I'm always in the need for more wedding cards in my card shop. So I'm just going to put that on my grid paper, ink up my stamp, and stamp this down. As long as I'm happy with it, and I am, I'm good to go. So there's that piece, and I'm going to add this along the bottom for just a little bit of extra embellishment. So when you're cutting up that Designer Series paper, if you've got these 3/4 inch, even 1.5 inches, sometimes is fun to put on the inside as a little scrap embellishment. Right? You've got it. If you're not going to use it on something else, you might as well put it on the inside of your card that matches with your whole design. Okay, so there's that. Now, I'm not going to put that down until I fold this, just so I make sure that I center it properly, but it's ready to go. Okay, so the next piece is doing our embellishments. So I've die cut from Calypso Coral and Mary Merlot 2 tags that match this one. This is the one with all the quilted die cuts in it. I cut 2 of those, and then I've cut a basic white with this little one that I'm using as my sentiment. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp that one next so that that can be drying. So on the front, I'm just going to stamp this little tiny congrats on my card. There we go. So now my sentiment is good for the outside, and I'm just going to go ahead and close my ink pad so I don't end up with ink where I don't want it. Alright, so now let's start building our embellishment on the front. So as you can see from my sample card, I'm going to layer up the tags, right? I'm going to add some twine, and I'm going to add this ribbon. Now, where did I get this Calypso Coral ribbon, right? Currently, we don't have a Calypso Coral in our current catalog, but we do have this seam binding, which is soft sea foam, and I do have my blend marker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-dye this seam binding to give me that Calypso Coral color to use on my card. So I'm just going to move all this aside for a second so I can dye my ribbon. So I've cut about 20 inches to create the ribbon here. Now you could use less, but I just thought I would do this for the ease to show you my next little trip. I'll show you when I'm putting it together. Alright, so just take your blend marker. You can also do this with your Stampin' Write markers. You can even do it with ink re-inkers if that's what you have, and a sponge dauber. But I'm just going to color my ribbon, right, just by running it down. And as long as it's a light enough ribbon, it'll take the color and then re-dye itself. So, and this one's really nice because this seam binding has a nice shimmer to it. So in the end, I've got a little extra excitement going on my card with that shimmer that doesn't get lost even though I'm dyeing the color. So I just run my blend like that all the way down my ribbon. Now you're going to want to let it dry a little bit, and it's going to get a little bit stiff, but that's okay. It's going to work just fine on our card. Okay, so that while that's drying just a little bit, we're going to go ahead and assemble our tags. Okay, so I have myself, I think this is about 12 inches, yeah, 6 inches doubled over, 12 inches of baker's twine. Okay, and I'm going to just tie up my tags all together. So I'm going to layer them first, just like this. Get all those little holes that are die cut in there together. And I'm going to take my bent end and feed it from the back to the front to get them all looped together. And I'm going to use my little piercing tool to help me get that through there. Give that a little tug. Oh, needs a little bit more. Come through there. Get enough through so I can tug it through. Okay, so now you can see I've got my 3 tags on this twine, and then I'm just going to open this up, right, because it's a circle, it was a loop, and I'm going to pull it through like a slip knot. Okay, I'm just pulling that through, and then I'm going to give that a little tug. Okay, so there are my 3 tags all put together. Now, I want them to stay put, right, once I have them angled the way I want them. So I'm going to go ahead and use some adhesive on the back of these tags to help me keep them where I want them. So first I'm going to pull this one up, and I'm going to add a little bit of adhesive behind where they're all going to get layered. Okay, and I'm just going to press that down. I'm probably going to want a little bit more behind the congrats. So this one I'm going to put right on the congrats, and then flip that over, position it, put that down. Let's just give that a little press so the 3 layers all adhere together. Be careful not to run your fingers over your ink in case it might be still a little bit wet. Okay, now from there, I'm going to let that dry for a second. we're going to come back to our card base. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this ribbon through the binding section first. So I want it about half 50-50, right? Split, because I'm going to end up tying it in the front. So I'm just going to move this over and I'm going to add adhesive to this 1-inch section of the card. Right, now you might be thinking that's a lot of adhesive, but I want to add the ribbon to it and have it so it's going to adhere to the inside. So I'm just going to put that down, press that into my adhesive a little bit, and then I'm going to fold it over and press that binding section to the inside of the card. So in doing that, we're kind of tucking that ribbon through the inside, which is going to help anchor it a little bit. Okay, and now I can add the center of my card as well. I'm just going to add some of my adhesive here, and then position this inside. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this sideways for a second, is I'm going to take this and I'm going to add a glue dot just to help me tether the ribbon on the front. And just add a glue dot kind of right there in the middle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these down, give a simple knot, pull them together, and adhere them to that little spot. Okay, so that's going to help me hold that in place while I move on to the next part. Now I've got my tags, right? So I'm bringing my tags over here and I'm going to run that twine over the center of that knot. And now I'm going to add a couple of dimensionals behind this tag so that I can put it where I want it. Okay, so I'm just going to put these on the overlapping sections of cardstock. That way none of the adhesive is going to come through those little quilted holes. I'm just going to put this down on the front and press that down. Okay, so now I've got my baker's twine there and I've got my ribbon here, and I'm just going to tie my knot right over where they overlap. Okay, so this is just becoming a simple double knot. And then I'm going to tug it. It's got a little twist to it. And now I've got my twine. Now I'm going to take my twine and I'm actually going to tie a bow. So I'm going to split it into two, make my little loops. Actually, I'm going to do it upside down. My bows always come out better when I do them upside down. So again, I'm going to split my ribbon. I'm going to make two bunny ears, right? Two little loops. And then I'm going to tie a knot in my loops, make my bunny ear bow. Pull that snug. My tails are going to go in. And now I can just tug on my little ends to make the bow the size that I want it. I don't want it too big and floppy, but I do want it to stand out as an embellishment. Okay, so there's my little bow. There's all my little ends. Okay, now I can just bring in my scissors and give it all a little trim. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my ribbon up first, both ends together, and give those a snip. So those will be a little bit shorter. Right, stay inside the size of my card, and then I'm just going to give the white baker's twine a little cut as well, so that's not too terribly long. And then there I do. There is my replica of my sample card. Okay, so take all the colors from your Designer Series paper to help you lead to the colors you want to use. Don't be afraid to go ahead and dye some neutral colored ribbon with your blends or your other ink to get one to match your project. And this is a really simple template, right? It's a fancy fold, but it's a really simple fancy fold template that you could use over and over with lots of different supplies. And whatever you decided to put on the front, today I decided to use tags, but you could use other die cuts, you could use other embellishments, you could stamp something and trim it out. So don't be limited to the fact that I use tags. Use whatever you have in your craft arsenal to create cards that you really enjoy. So there we go. Now remember, you can hop over to my blog and get the full blog post where I list all my supplies and the steps again. And while you're there, you can look at my other blog posts. There's a blog gallery over there that will take you to each project I've been sharing. There's also my little shop of cards over there where you'll find cards that I have available for sale if you're in the need for some physical samples, or if you just really love buying handcrafted cards as well as making them. I have that over there for you. And don't forget to subscribe here to the YouTube channel, and you won't miss out on the next video I share. Alright guys, I also love your comments, so let me know what you think. Let me know if you'll try this template for yourself, and have a great day. Do some fun stamping this week, and I'll see you again next week for our Make It Monday project. Alright everybody, do some fun stamping. Bye-bye.